Hi, folks. I know it's very quickly after my video Saturday morning, but that wasn't really a book review video, was it? Though I really enjoyed it, and I think it was very good for me personally to have done it in terms of trying to be honest with myself about my fitness and weight loss progress and all that kind of good stuff. I know it was longer than I normally do as well. So if anybody made it to the end, I appreciate that. But you might find some of it interesting, right? But anyway, back to the kind of main course here. As I suspected, I did. Well, actually, I kind of read a few pages ahead. With my Chinese student this morning, I did finish Stuart Little by E.B. White, which is the second E.B. White book I've read after Charlotte's Web. And wow, there's a lot going on here, isn't there? I'm gonna, as I've asked, people have asked me to do. So my kind of immediate 5-star rating verdict is going to be, I'm going to say it's a 5. I can see why it's a classic of American children's literature and all children's literature really. And I don't have a physical copy because we did it on PDF. I'd want a copy, I think, and I'd probably want to have this in my library. I think it's a really good. I do have some things to say about it, and if you've not read it, well, I'd encourage you to read it. I think anyone could read it actually, but I'm gonna have some spoilers ahead, sort of thing. So bottom line, you can bail out here if you want to, if that's what we want. I think it's a really good book, and I can see why it's so highly regarded. Now I'm going to go into spoiler territory and give my kind of reader response to it. Strange book. Funny, certainly. Witty, in fact. There's no comic pratfalls. There's lots of funny little scenes and funny little jokes, and as you often have, the little asides to the adults in the room, and you kind of expect that from this kind of format. But not all of them are like that. And also, I know I've seen the films. I think there's 2 films. I've literally no recollection of them at all. I can see Hugh Laurie's face. I can see a little white mouse, and I don't think he's a little white mouse actually. And I think that upset some people at the time. That's all I know. I don't remember anything about it. I suspect it's got those. They just took the kind of basic idea and ran with it. Because I don't think they wrote the book. It's not often that I read that one reads something that you literally don't know what's going to happen next. And this went in all sorts of strange places and strange directions, and it's a very, very, obviously it's a fantasy. And one of the things that I found, is Stuart a mouse, or does he just look like a mouse? And I know that's a philosophical question, isn't it? But I mean, he's described as a mouse all the way through, yet somehow the conceit of the book is that as a perfectly normal American, well, they're going to be quite rich, aren't they, where they live on the Upper East Side, isn't it? Was that so rich at the time? I guess it was. 40s, 45, I think this is published. And so the idea is that he has a normal sized brother, and then somehow they have a mouse. And he's kind of accepted as a mouse all the way through until he flirts with Harriet in Ames's Crossing, and suddenly he says, well, Harriet is supposed to be a 2-inch high human-looking female girl, and Stuart, in his his very sweet, pompous little love letter, invitation letter, not love letter, that he writes to get her out on a date, it's all about how I look like a mouse. Okay, that's sort of puzzling to me. And he has all sorts of scrapes and adventures. The whole kind of the miniature car is absolutely delightful, and there's a lovely little bit at the end where he gets 5 drops of gasoline from an eyedropper for it from the gas station. But it's very whimsical. All sorts of odd things happen, and he has all these kind of odd encounters and kind of, I think it's quite, I think it's dreamlike. I think E.B. White plotted this from dreams, or just kind of, you know, let things happen on the page. I don't like the whole kind of there's a strange little conversation towards the end with the telephone man, and there's kind of odd little bits and things, a little bit like he did with Charlotte's Web. He kind of picks things up and then he drops them, and then so Snowbell is set up in my mind as a kind of, you know, major villain, and then she's just not mentioned anymore. We kind of forget about him, and then Stuart seems to grow up very quickly as well. I don't think there's any kind of phase of him being childlike. I think he's always a sort of little man, little well-dressed man, isn't he, with his proper kind of I don't suppose they're called preppy clothes in those days, Brooke Brothers type clothes and everything. And then before too long, he's kind of off in the world. There's not 1 second of him having any kind of homesickness, right, or missing his mum and dad. So he kind of goes out into the world on his quest to find Margalo, and then from the last third of the book gets into kind of, you know, very American. We go from the city, and the city, New York City, is described very well. And you get a really good sense of, with the student, I was kind of explaining about the grid system and the boats on the Central Park. And then we're off into American pastoral, and we go to Ames's, and suddenly the language becomes much more lyrical, doesn't it? And kind of much more expressive, and we kind of, there's that picture of Ames's Crossing as like the perfect bit of Americana. And you get, I think it's very evocative, so I'm just going to look around because the cat's patrolling and just want to make sure she's okay. Yeah, kind of, and then it ends weirdly. So if I was writing this, and I think most people writing this would be, you'd circle back, wouldn't you? So Stuart goes off into the world, and he finds Margalo, or he has some sort of adventures. I would have thought that he would stick in Ames's Crossing, and he would get together with Harriet, and that would be the end of the story. But no, that's very sad actually, because his whole date with her gets completely ruined by somebody, big boys playing with his boat kind of thing, and so he doesn't do that. And at the end of the book, he's still heading up north. So okay, does he write a sequel? Is there a Stuart Little 2? Do we know? I imagine anybody, especially a kid, listening or reading to this book would say, well, what happened to, what's next? Okay, maybe that's a cliffhanger to kind of leave them. It doesn't really feel like it's kind of like, yeah, so E.B. White, yeah, I mean, kind of like a very kind of, not a conventional writer, not a conventional plotter, certainly a man with a person with a gigantic imagination. I mean, there's so much fun had with Stuart's size. There's kind of this delightful kind of Stuart's ludicrous, absurdly tiny little self, but he comports himself in the world as if he were a full-size person, and everyone kind of, they don't indulge in it. It's this perfectly natural that he gets on he has to get on the bus. He's so small, it said that he has to climb into somebody's pant cuffs, and then someone negotiate with the driver, and he's got tiny little pieces of silver foil his dad has made for him for money, kind of thing. It's like, that's delightful, and I think many kids, and I find it, you know, lovely and funny and sweet and everything, but it's a bit weird as well. Kind of like, so I think this is the sort of book, if you read at a certain time, would really stick in your mind. I love The Borrowers. I loved The Borrowers, and that was a kind of absolute treasure for me as a kid when I discovered that in Ward End Library in Birmingham, and very, very, very happy with that. But that's the borrowers live in their own world, and the humans world, I can't remember what the name they call the big people, right, is alien to them, and kind of like the enemy and a threat, and they kind of live their own separate. Didn't feel like, so, you know, tininess and tiny characters and tiny little things, I think, are very, very appealing to children. But he does it excellently in this book. He does it very, very well, but also odd. So very distinctive book, very kind of very much of its own thing, I think. So you know, hats off to you, EB. I absolutely, when I'm reading a book, I don't do I don't go anywhere near Wikipedia, and I especially don't do it, excuse me, before I do these reviews, because I don't want my review to be coloured by that and to be unoriginal. So this is my kind of, you know, heartfelt response to what I read. Well, we'll go on to Wikipedia now, and I've got to find out if there's a sequel, and I'll probably want to read it, because what the hell happens? Does he get back? Does he go back to see the parents? Yes, so interesting writer, interesting book. I think anyone could read this book and just find it odd, funny, charming, very interesting language, very interesting, feels very dated now, but in a very kind of quaint, cool way. There's a bizarre phrase when he's in the schoolroom being the substitute teacher, which is very funny, where he kind of talks about one of the great things in life is the back of a baby's neck if its mother keeps it tidy. Tidy? Never heard tidy using that word before. Was that an idiom of its time? Okay, so yes, good book, interesting book, odd book, weird book, fantasy, dreamlike, not what I expected, pretty good. Now, I do need to go back to my big science fiction book, which I have neglected the last couple of days, and I will kind of, it's a good reading outside day, so I'll probably try and do a bit of that. So, thanks for watching, like and subscribe, good luck with the TBBRP and the diet if you're doing it, whatever. Talk to you soon, guys. I'm not going to commit to when. It's going to take me at least a week to finish, I think, Standard Zanzibar, but I'm going to do that. All right, okay, cheers, bye.